When you start working in sustainability and community, I think you very quickly learn that the psychology has to be everything we do is imperfect.
Welcome to the Tales to Inspire podcast. Before we get started on this episode, I would like to invite you to our community so that you can hear more stories to inspire change within your life and positive change within the systems in which we live. All I want you to do is to click on the subscribe button. Your comments mean the world to us with anything that's resonated with you, and I absolutely love your support. I can't wait to go on this journey alongside you. Thank you so much for subscribing. Let's get into today's episode. Today, our bite-sized episode is with Corin Bell.
I'm Corin Bell, and this is my Tale to Inspire.
So, entrepreneurship and sustainability are things that are really important in our society and how we move forwards. It has a really important part in your life story and where you're at right now. But can you tell me a little bit about why entrepreneurship and sustainability are important to you?
Sustainability has always been really important to me. Couldn't really tell you why. It just, I suppose logically it makes sense to me. If we're not sustainable, it makes sense to people in their finances or in companies' finances. If you're not sustainable, if you're spending more than you're earning, at some point your company is going to collapse. For some reason, when we talk about the environment and ecology, the exact same logic doesn't seem to make sense to people. Like, if we're taking more out of the land than we're putting in, at some point that soil is going to collapse and you're not going to be able to grow anything in it. If we're introducing more pollutants or carbon into the atmosphere than we're taking out, or we're doing more harm than we're preventing, at some point that ecological system is going to collapse. So as far as I'm concerned, if you're running, like, we talk about our business, our social enterprise as sustainable, and for me, that running a business that is good, that is sustainable, always has three legs. Is it financially sustainable? Is it environmentally sustainable? Is it socially sustainable? Is it looking after, can it wash its own face financially? Is it bringing in money? If I'm honest, that for me is more about the people side of things. Can we pay people? Can we offer people decent and stable jobs? Is it environmentally sustainable? Can it carry on running and not do massive harm in the world? And is it socially sustainable? Is it actually looking after people and providing food that's good for people and good for the planet?
I love that. Okay, so sustainability takes a whole new aspect towards just climate, which sometimes can be disconnected from people.
Yeah.
Which you kind of connected all three there with the financial, the social, and actually the sustainable side of it. So, entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
Would you say that you said it as sustainability has always been part of your life as a child growing up? Mm-hmm. Would you say you've always been an entrepreneur, someone who's created your own things and had this independence, or do you think that's something that you've learned, or it's not you at all?
I think it's something I've learned, and it's something I'm now very proud of. When we first started what is now Open Kitchen, it was originally called Real Junk Food. It stemmed from a project in Leeds that was called the Real Junk Food Project. And definitely when we first started it, like, my background is, I trained as a project manager with Manchester City Council, very much public sector, used to run big projects for them, then went freelance for a bit. And when I started what is now Open Kitchen, we were definitely thinking of it as a project, like not for profit. And I think that the whole sphere around social enterprise and community business is a real spectrum. Like, there are projects that are completely focused on their environmental or social aims and are just finding ways to trade to support that. And then there's businesses that maybe, give away a certain percentage of their profits to causes that they believe in. And I think slowly but surely, as we've gone along, we've kind of inched along that spectrum. And I know loads of other projects that are community food operators or sustainability projects. And I think we're in a bit of a weird space at the moment that I actually think is quite brilliant. Because if I speak to other food businesses, if you think of the spectrum as going from community food project completely run by volunteers doing no trading right up to food and drink business. I think we are at the moment just smack bang in the middle. And if I speak to other food businesses, then they think we're hippies.
Right.
And if I speak to other community food projects, they look at us and go, oh, you guys are really quite professional, you're a business.
Right.
And it's a difficult balance to find. I think when we first started, and I speak to lots of community food operations who are trading, and when they talk about profit, they almost feel guilty saying the word, like it's a bad thing. And it's one of the things that I'm always very keen to kind of knock out of them. You know, like, profit is not a bad thing, money is not a bad thing. You know, we've always said we're a not-for-profit. I'm not against it. We just want to do something useful with it. And actually there's something I think really psychologically healthy and powerful and self-reliant and resilient about running a successful community business that just happens to plough most of its profits back into things that are good for people and good for planet.
Yeah, it makes so much sense. It's profit for purpose, right?
Yeah.
I mean, doing it for the right reasons, essentially. So, community and society right now is many different interconnections, and there's so many polar opposite opinions. Mm-hmm. Where do you find community and society right now as it views sustainability and the work that you do?
Just little questions for a Friday morning.
Man, straight in.
Yeah,
there's no holding back.
Jesus.
Well, you said you prepared the answers, so I thought I'd give you some new questions.
Start talking about Pringles.
Pringles, do it. That's a personal joke before the actual interview started.
It's just not one big cohesive thing. It's a lot, you know, every single group you talk to has a different perspective on it. And some of them are quite surprising. You know, I think broadly you would expect that, for example, white middle class people who have more money would be more open to organic, sustainably produced, blah, blah, blah. Actually, sometimes we go into communities where people are first or second generation immigrants and they're from Pakistan or India, or they're from an African country, and what they're used to is organic farming, because what they've seen in their country of origin is nothing but organic farming and nothing but small holding and nothing but locally produced veg. And they're a bit horrified by how sterile and similar all of our fruit and veggies and all the packaging that's on it, and reading the packets and going, this came from where? You crazy fools. You could grow this in your garden. So it's just, everyone's got a different perspective on it. And I think you've just got to kind of meet groups where they're at and ask them what's important to them. I mean, the main thing for me is not making any assumptions and just chatting to people about where they're at, trying to work out what, like sometimes the term sustainability or the term organic doesn't mean anything to anyone, or it means something and it doesn't feel relevant to them. So sometimes we don't talk about sustainability, you just talk about air quality and the traffic on the main road and your kids, and the fact that your kids have got asthma, and actually if we could just plant some more trees, that might help. Mm-hmm. Really hyper locally.
I think it's taken that huge world issue, sustainability or climate crisis, and bringing it to the individual, as opposed to it just completely switching off. I come across so many communities, especially in the Asian community, and you speak about the climate and things like that, and all they care about is money so often, and it's like, how does it affect my money? And so then I've got to try and justify how it helps bring them more money, but often it's in the long term. And that's where there's a big gap as well within certain communities. But I'm really interested, because it is a white middle class. You'd think, I wouldn't have thought that people living in Pakistan, like you said, you've given real life experiences. They've been abroad, that's how they've done it. Then they've come here, and we're just so different.
Yeah.
It's just so disheartening. How do you not get overwhelmed by sometimes putting plastic packaging on a banana? and like, what are you doing? Oh, do you know what I mean? Like all this madness that you see, or the fact that Pringles are just completely chemically created, or whatever it is that you want to, like, how do you not just get overwhelmed by all of that, working in that space and that being so integral to you?
Some days I do. Some days I do. I think sometimes you just look at certain issues like, I remember there was social media is bizarre, right? Particularly at the moment, it's bizarre. It's just a horrible place where people gripe at each other. And some of even on the sustainability side of things, some of the calling out that people do is just hilarious. And a few years ago now, I think it was Morrison's had put individual bananas, bananas grow their own packaging. That's the whole point, right? They literally produce their own packaging so you can transport them anywhere. And some moron at Morrison's had put individual bananas on a polystyrene tray and then cling filmed them and put them out with a price on them. And angry hippies everywhere, like it was all over Twitter within about 24 hours, and they were calling them out and they stopped doing it. But sometimes you just look at things like that and just go, okay, that's annoying, but actually that's the thin end of the wedge. Like that's the least of it. And I think you just, everything we do is completely imperfect. That's one of the things I think when you start working in sustainability and community, I think you very quickly learn that the psychology has to be, everything we do is imperfect. Anything we deliver at this point, because the system is so screwed, is going to be, you can't deliver good in a system that's bad. You just can't, you can just kind of inch towards something better and try and push the system a little bit.
Yeah.
But I think we just, anything we do is imperfect, and the important thing is to just celebrate the successes and to not get caught in that quite tricky psychology. There's some people who I think do get a bit exhausted by it and decide that rather than getting involved in action, they'll just sit on the sidelines and criticise what other people aren't doing perfectly because it's easy. It's easy and it's lazy and it makes you feel really superior. It's great. It's got all the perks.
So then how do we change that? So if you're looking for the future, if you're saying, which it absolutely is, the system is so screwed up, how do we change the space that you're in and the things that you care about, that you care about so much, that matter to this world? How do we actually make change?
One of the things that's nice at the moment is I do see a lot of people taking action. Like I think it can be overwhelming. But I think one of the nice things about working in sustainability and community is you do meet people every day who are doing brilliant things and pushing it forward. It's, I suppose the way I think of it is it's taken like 100,000 ill thought through little decisions to get us in this mess, and it's going to take 100,000 little well thought through decisions to get us out the other side. And at this particular point in history, I think one of the things we need to do is just make it real. Just do it, more action on the ground. And there's a lot more groups doing that and getting geared up to do that. Like we know what we need to do. All the research is in. There's research, there's strategy, we've got all the evidence we need and all the documents we need, and now just kind of have to crack on and go. Like the research has been there, for example, the research around community growing projects. There's so many different benefits to getting communities to grow their own veg and fruit locally, from access to fruit and veg to people who wouldn't normally get it, to tackling social isolation, to keeping older people more active, to better air quality, spaces for biodiversity. I could go on and on and on. It's like, it's not win-win-win. It's like win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win. It's like 27 wins. So why are the government not just paying for it, because all the evidence is there, not only that it would bring huge multiple benefits, but that over time it would save a lot more money in benefits, in cost to the NHS, in sick days, you know, all sorts of things. It would save the economy a lot more than it would cost, and that you can't grow an economy with a workforce who are essentially physically and mentally unwell. But they've never done it. So you just go, well, clearly research isn't working. You know, we've tried evidence, we've tried research, we've commissioned a load of studies. There's a lot of fat-rich academics out there that are having a great old time, but that's not leading to change. And I'm seeing some really great groups now who are just going,
just do it.
Fuck it, we'll just go and do it. Like we can sit here writing funding bids till the end of time, and that's not going to do it. So let's just go and do it, make it real in the world, and then it kind of can't be denied. And I think that's what I'm interested in at the moment. Let's just crack on and do it.
And I love that, because you've talked about, it took 100,000 bad decisions to get to here, but we made those decisions, humans got us here, so we can get ourselves out of it, because that's the hopeful thing, is we've actually got to this point, so let's provide solutions to get out of it. So yeah, action-based, love that. Just so much words that we just hear and just talking, and legislation and government people, and it's just, you say one thing but you act completely different.
Yeah.
It's like, let's just do what you're going to say and go ahead. And if it doesn't matter, like you said, there's no perfect.